The Battle of Hastings in 1066 was a pivotal moment in history. But what truly set it apart wasn't just the brutal combat, it was the mind of William the Conqueror, a master tactician. How did a man with fewer soldiers and a foreign claim to the English throne outsmart one of the most powerful kings in Europe? Today, we're breaking down William's genius strategy, revealing how he turned the tide in his favor. In this video, we'll uncover the brilliant maneuvers that allowed William to outwit and ultimately defeat Harold Godwinson. From deception tactics to psychological warfare, this was more than just a battle. It was a calculated move that reshaped the English monarchy forever. Before we get started, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you love learning about history's most iconic battles. It really helps us grow and bring more awesome content to you. By the end of this video, you'll understand the key moment that tipped the scales, and how William's cunning turned defeat into victory. So was it a stroke of luck or pure genius? Let's dive in and find out. To fully appreciate William's brilliance at the Battle of Hastings, we need to understand the context leading up to the event. England in 1066 was a land in turmoil. After the death of Edward the Confessor, there were multiple claimants to the English throne, each with their own reasons for believing they had the right to rule. Harold Godwinson, a powerful English noble, was crowned king, but his claim was contested by both William, Duke of Normandy, and Harold Hardrada of Norway. William's claim was based on a promise he believed had been made by Edward the Confessor, and he was determined to assert his right by force. Meanwhile, Harold Godwinson had already fought and defeated Harold Hardrada at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, just days before Hastings. His army, while victorious, was exhausted from marching across England and fighting a brutal battle. William, on the other hand, had spent months meticulously preparing for his invasion. He built a fleet, secured the Pope's blessing for his campaign, giving it a religious legitimacy, and gathered troops not just from Normandy, but from across Europe. His strategy wasn't just about numbers, it was about careful planning and execution. Once William landed in England, he set up camp at Pevensey and began making calculated moves to draw Harold into battle. He ravaged the surrounding areas to force Harold's hand. Harold, still recovering from his previous battle, rushed southward, hoping to catch William off guard. But William was ready. The stage was set for one of the most famous battles in history. The morning of October 14, 1066, saw two vastly different armies face off at Sanlac Hill. Harold's army, composed largely of infantry, formed a formidable shield wall at the top of the hill, a traditional defensive position used by the Anglo-Saxons. The English shield wall was nearly impenetrable, with tightly packed rows of men using their shields to create a solid front. Their goal was simple: hold their ground. William's army was more diverse, consisting of infantry, cavalry, and archers. His initial strategy was straightforward: break Harold's shield wall. The Normans launched waves of attacks, with archers firing volleys and cavalry charging up the hill. But the English held firm, repelling the assaults and inflicting heavy casualties on the Norman forces. For hours, the battle seemed deadlocked. The English shield wall appeared invincible, and the Normans were struggling to make any real impact. But this is where William's genius came into play. Rather than continuing a battle of attrition, he adapted his strategy on the fly. At a key moment, rumors spread through William's army that he had been killed. The Norman troops, fearing defeat, began to retreat. But William, realizing the potential of this moment, took swift action. He removed his helmet, revealing himself to his troops, and rallied them. Then, he made a brilliant tactical decision that would change the course of the battle. The moment that truly defined William's genius at Hastings was his use of the feigned retreat. This was a rare and risky tactic in medieval warfare, but if executed correctly, it could break even the strongest defenses. William ordered his cavalry to pretend to flee the battlefield, simulating a full retreat. The English, seeing what they believed was a Norman retreat, broke ranks and pursued them down the hill. This was exactly what William wanted. By leaving the safety of their shield wall, the English lost their greatest advantage, their strong defensive formation. As they chased the retreating Normans, the battlefield became disorganized, and Harold's forces were spread too thin to mount an effective defense. Once the English were sufficiently scattered and vulnerable, William's cavalry turned and attacked. This counterattack caught Harold's men off guard, and without the protection of the shield wall, they were overwhelmed. The feigned retreat not only lured the English into a vulnerable position, but also created confusion and panic within their ranks. This was the turning point of the battle. William's psychological mastery of the battlefield had undone the English defenses. Harold's army was now exposed, and the Norman forces capitalized on their weakened state. The feigned retreat was a gamble, but it paid off in spectacular fashion. The decisive moment of the battle came in the late afternoon when Harold Godwinson was struck down. The details of his death are still debated by historians. Some accounts suggest he was killed by an arrow to the eye, while others claim he was cut down by Norman knights. What we do know is that the fall of Harold shattered the morale of his troops. With their king dead, the English army collapsed. William's forces pursued the fleeing soldiers, and the battle was effectively over. William had not only won the battle, but also paved the way for his coronation as King of England. His use of strategy, particularly the feigned retreat, was the key to his victory. William's genius lay not just in his ability to command troops, but in his ability to read the battlefield and adapt. While Harold relied on traditional defensive tactics, William exploited his enemy's weaknesses and turned the battle in his favor. William the Conqueror's victory at the Battle of Hastings wasn't just a product of brute force, it was a result of strategic brilliance. His ability to adapt, deceive, and manipulate his enemies allowed him to overcome tremendous odds and secure one of the most significant victories in medieval history. The feigned retreat at Hastings was a masterstroke that broke the English defenses and ensured William's place in history. It's a reminder that, in warfare, strategy often outweighs strength. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval warfare, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more historical breakdowns. What other battles or historical figures would you like us to cover next? Let us know in the comments below.